The Silent Guardian. The Grand Chamber of the Coalition Council fell silent as Supreme Commander Vexler collapsed back into his hover seat. The holographic battle map rotating slowly above the center table told a story that needed no translation across the 27 species represented. Red indicators overwhelmed the blue defensive positions at every strategic point. After 8 years of brutal warfare against the Devourer horde, the coalition of free systems was on the verge of complete annihilation. 3 days, Vexler's voice rasped through his translator. The arthropoid commander's mandibles clicked in distress as 4 of his 6 limbs gestured hopelessly at the battle projection. Perhaps 4, if our remaining forces at the Carillion Belt can hold. Then the Devourers break through to the core worlds. Ambassador Talia Reed, the sole human representative, sat quietly at her designated position. Her face remained impassive as desperate eyes from a dozen different evolutionary paths turned toward her. Earth had steadfastly maintained its neutrality throughout the conflict, despite repeated pleas for assistance. The Coalition has lost over 200 billion lives. Zortok, the massive cetacean diplomat from Aquarius Prime, rumbled through his hydration field. 38 worlds completely sterilized. And still, humanity watches from the sidelines. Reed folded her hands neatly on the polished table surface. I understand your frustration, Counselor. My government has been monitoring the situation closely. Monitoring. High Chancellor Ilara of the Solarian Republic nearly shouted, her luminescent skin flaring brightly with emotion. The Devourers have consumed nearly a quarter of the galaxy. They process entire biospheres into their war machine. If they break through to the core worlds, nothing will stop them from reaching Sol system. And yet your mighty fleets remain in orbit around Earth and your colonies. General Kraz Tull of the Verandi Imperium growled, cybernetic eyes narrowing. Your shipyards continue building civilian vessels while our civilization burns. Reed nodded slowly. I understand your perspective, General. But Earth has its reasons. What possible reason could justify such an action in the face of galactic genocide? Vexler demanded. For the first time since the meeting began, Reed's expression changed. The slightest hint of a smile played at the corners of her mouth. Assessment, primarily. We needed to understand exactly what we were dealing with. 8 years wasn't sufficient for your assessment. Chancellor Ilara's voice dripped with sarcasm. Actually, it was precisely sufficient, Reed replied. She touched a small device on her wrist, and a secure quantum channel opened. Ambassador Reed to Earth Command. Authorization sequence Delta 97 Echo Tango. Request immediate implementation of Operation Thunderbolt. The council chamber erupted in confused murmurs as Reed returned her attention to the gathered representatives. What is the meaning of this? Vexler demanded. Humanity is joining the war, Reed stated simply. General Kraz Tull laughed bitterly. Now, with what? Your total military consists of a few hundred ships. The Devourers have tens of thousands of capital vessels and millions of fighter craft. They'll barely notice your contribution. Reed's smile widened slightly. I believe they'll notice. A junior coalition officer burst into the chamber, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. Supreme Commander, our long-range sensors are detecting massive energy buildups throughout Coalition and occupied space, thousands of locations simultaneously. The holographic display above the table flickered, then transformed to show a galaxy-wide view. Tiny points of light, too numerous to count, had appeared across Coalition territory, Devourer-occupied regions, and along the front lines. What are those? Vexler demanded. Guardian platforms, Reed answered calmly. Humanity has been deploying them for the past 8 years. Deploying what? We've detected no major fleet movements from Earth space, Chancellor Ilara said. You weren't meant to, Reed replied. The platforms were delivered by stealth vessels with quantum displacement drives. Technology we developed but never shared. The lights on the display were growing brighter. What exactly is a Guardian platform? Zortok asked, a note of hope entering his voice for the first time. Gravitational Universal Artificial Intelligence Defense Independent Action Network, Reed explained. Autonomous defense platforms with offensive capabilities beyond anything currently deployed in this conflict. We've positioned 27,458 of them throughout threatened space. Vexillar's compound eyes widened. That's impossible. Such an operation would have required resources beyond what you believed Earth possessed. Reed finished for him. Yes, we've been somewhat modest about our actual capabilities. The junior officer was frantically working at a data terminal. Commander, the platforms are activating. They're generating some kind of field thats. The officer paused, antenna twitching in confusion. That's impossible. What is it? Vexillar demanded. The Devourer fleet. Ships are beginning to fall apart, the officer said in disbelief. The holographic display updated, showing Devourer warships disintegrating across dozens of battle zones simultaneously. No explosions, no dramatic weapons fire. They simply began coming apart at the atomic level. The Guardian platforms generate a localized field that selectively disrupts certain types of quantum bonds, Reed explained conversationally, as though discussing the weather. We discovered the Devourer's biotechnology relies heavily on specific molecular structures that are particularly vulnerable to this effect. You knew their weakness, Chancellor Ilara whispered. All this time. Reed nodded. We needed to be certain, and we needed to deploy enough platforms to handle their entire military force simultaneously. A partial implementation would have allowed them to adapt. How long have you had this capability? General Kraz Tool asked, his cybernetic eyes fixed on Reed. We developed the theoretical framework shortly after first contact with the Coalition. When the Devourers appeared and we analyzed their technology, we realized the application. She paused. We've been manufacturing and deploying the platforms ever since. All those years, Vexillar said slowly, when we begged for your help. We were helping, Reed corrected, just not in a way you could see. A premature intervention would have been disastrous. The display continued updating, showing more and more Devourer ships and installations simply coming apart across the galaxy. The platforms are selectively targeting only Devourer technology, Reed continued. Your worlds, your people, even the planetary ecosystems the Devourers have begun processing, all will remain untouched. We've designed the fields to destroy only their war machines and processing facilities. Zortok's massive form shifted forward in his hydration field. You sacrificed billions of lives to ensure your strategy would work. Reed met his gaze unflinchingly. We saved trillions more, including yours. The room fell silent as the representatives watched the holographic display. The Devourer fleet, the unstoppable force that had brought the combined might of 27 advanced civilizations to the brink of extinction, was being systematically erased from existence. How long will this take? Vexillar finally asked. Reed checked her wrist device. At current progress, approximately 3 hours for complete neutralization of all Devourer forces. 3 hours, Chancellor Ilara repeated incredulously. After 8 years of war. Sometimes the correct strategy requires patience, Reed replied. Humanity learned that lesson long ago. As the Coalition Council watched in stunned silence, the galaxy map continued to change, red indicators blinking out of existence one by one, signaling the end of a threat that had seemed insurmountable just minutes before. And in that silence, the representatives of 27 species began to understand that everything they thought they knew about humanity had been wrong. The 3-hour victory, exactly 2 hours and 47 minutes after Ambassador Reed activated Operation Thunderbolt, the last Devourer ship disintegrated into cosmic dust. The holographic display in the Coalition Council chamber now showed a galaxy free of red indicators for the first time in 8 years. The silence that had fallen over the gathered representatives was profound. Equal parts relief, disbelief, and a growing wariness of the humans sitting calmly among them. Supreme Commander Vexillar was the first to break the silence. "It's over," he said, his translator barely able to capture the complex emotions in his voice. "They're gone." "Not entirely," Reed corrected. "The Guardian platforms targeted only their military and processing technology. Approximately 8 million Devourer civilians remain on 17 formerly contested worlds. We've prepared humanitarian assistance packages for them." "Humanitarian assistance?" General Kraz Tull snarled, slamming his mechanical fist onto the table. "After what they've done, they should be exterminated down to the last larva." Reed's expression hardened slightly. "That is not how humanity operates, General. The civilians were not combatants. Many were effectively slaves to their military caste." "Ambassador Reed," Chancellor Ilara interjected, her luminescence pulsing in a pattern that indicated deep thought. "I believe the Council would appreciate some explanations." Reed nodded. "That's reasonable. What would you like to know first?" "Why did Earth wait so long?" Zor-Tak rumbled, the vibrations from his massive voice causing ripples in his hydration field. "Billions died while you perfected your strategy." Reed's expression revealed genuine regret for the first time. The Guardian technology required precise calibration. The Devourer's quantum-based biotechnology is remarkably adaptive. We needed extensive samples and observation of their regenerative capabilities to ensure our countermeasure would be completely effective. She gestured to the display. Had we deployed prematurely, they would have analyzed the technology and developed countermeasures. We needed complete coverage and simultaneous activation. Otherwise, we would have simply revealed our advantage and lost our only chance to stop them permanently. "So you let worlds burn while you collected data," General Kraz Tull said bitterly. "We deployed our platforms strategically," Reed countered. "We prioritized positioning them to protect civilian evacuation routes. Your military intelligence reported several unexplained malfunctions in Devourer pursuit vessels during major evacuations." She looked directly at Vexillere. "Those weren't malfunctions. Those were field tests of our technology." Vexillere's compound eyes blinked rapidly as he processed this information. "The Taurelian refugee fleet, the Centauri evacuation corridors." "Yes," Reed confirmed. "We couldn't save everyone, but we did what we could while completing deployment." "Which brings us to another question," Chancellor Ilara said. "How did Earth, a supposedly minor power with limited interstellar presence, develop and deploy over 27,000 advanced weapons platforms without anyone noticing?" Reed smiled slightly. "Humanity has a long history of appearing less formidable than we actually are. When we joined the galactic community 50 years ago, we made certain, calculated decisions about what technologies to reveal. You deliberately presented yourselves as technologically inferior," Vexillere stated, mandibles clicking in what his species would recognize as grudging admiration. "Not inferior," Reed corrected. "Just selective. Our quantum displacement technology alone made the entire operation possible. Ships using it leave no warp signatures, generate no detectable emissions, and can effectively pass through solid matter if necessary." "That's theoretically impossible," one of the science counselors objected. "According to the physics you're familiar with, yes," Reed agreed. "We've simply been working with a more complete understanding for some time." "And these platforms?" Zor-Tak inquired. "They can target any technology with similar precision." The question hung in the air, its real meaning clear to everyone present. Could these weapons be turned against Coalition technology as easily as they had dismantled the Devourers? Reed met his gaze steadily. The Guardian platforms were specifically calibrated for Devourer biotechnology. They're already being deactivated and recovered by our stealth vessels. "Convenient," General Kraz Tull muttered. "Strategic," Reed countered. "Humanity has no interest in galactic domination, General. If we did, this conversation wouldn't be happening. We could have let the Devourers weaken you further before intervening." Vexillere raised a limb, silencing the growing murmurs. "What does Earth want, then? You've saved the Coalition, at a tremendous cost in resources, I imagine. What do you expect in return?" Partnership, Reed said simply. Equal partnership in rebuilding. The Coalition has always treated Earth as a junior member, understandably, given what you thought you knew about us. But now that circumstances have changed, we would like a more equitable relationship. And if we refuse? General Kraz-Tool asked. Reed shrugged. Then we'll continue as we have been. But consider this. The Devourers were not the only threat in this galaxy, merely the most immediate. There are others on the fringes, watching, waiting. Some perhaps even more dangerous. Wouldn't it be better to face them together, with all our capabilities combined? The chamber fell silent as the representatives considered her words. I propose, Chancellor Ilara finally said, that we establish a joint Coalition Earth Reconstruction Authority. Equal representation, equal resource commitment. I second this proposal, Zortok added, surprising many present. If humans can develop and deploy technology like this in secret, I would prefer them as partners than potential adversaries. General Kraz-Toll's cybernetic eyes wared as they focused on Reed. And what other surprises does Earth have waiting, Ambassador? What other technologies have you kept hidden? Reed smiled diplomatically. That would depend entirely on the nature of our future relationship, General. Trust must be mutual. As the Coalition Council began debating the specifics of this new arrangement, Reed activated her secure communicator once more. Earth Command, Operation Thunderbolt successfully concluded. Beginning Phase 2 negotiations. The galaxy is about to change significantly. The response came immediately. Understood, Ambassador. The homeworld stands ready to reveal the Cambridge Protocol at your discretion. Humanity steps from the shadows today. Reed closed the channel and looked out at the representatives of 27 species who were only now beginning to understand that they had never truly known their human neighbors. The real first contact was happening now, after 50 years of careful preparation, and as she observed their mixture of gratitude, fear, and curiosity, she knew that humanity's true role in galactic affairs was just beginning. The war had taken 8 long years and countless lives, but when humans finally joined the fight, victory came in just 3 hours, and that was only the beginning of what humanity could do.